Let Auntie Mae tell you something. Life has a funny way of showing you who people truly are, especially when the lights go out and the promises fade. Sometimes, what glitters at first turns out to be nothing but fool's gold. I once knew a woman, a sweet, gentle soul. She baked love into everything she touched, cooked care into every meal, and believed with all her heart that goodness could fix what was broken. But her man, oh honey, he was baking lies on the side. You know the type I'm talking about? Always grinning, always saying, "Don't you trust me?" while keeping that phone face down like it was hiding state secrets. He'd wrap his arms around her and whisper sweet things, but those words were hollow as an empty jar of honey. And for a long time, she believed him, because that's what love makes us do sometimes. It blinds us just enough to ignore the storm brewing right under our roof. This woman didn't start off vengeful, no Lord, she started off hopeful. She prayed over her relationship, gave grace when he didn't deserve it, and carried the weight of keeping things together on her own tired back. But hope can only carry you so far when lies keep piling up, and when the truth finally came crawling out. A lipstick that wasn't hers, a message that didn't belong, and a silence that spoke louder than any confession. Her heart cracked clean in two. Now, heartbreak does something to a woman. It can make her small for a while, yes, but then it teaches her just how big she truly is. See, there comes a moment when the tears dry up, and you look at yourself in the mirror and say, "No more." That's the moment when pain turns into power. And baby, that woman found her moment. She stopped asking, "Why me?" and started saying, "Watch me." Now, don't think she acted out of hate. Hate burns too fast. No, she acted out of wisdom. The kind of quiet, deliberate wisdom that comes when you realize someone's been playing you for a fool. And she decided, if he was going to make a mess, she'd make sure he remembered the cleanup. So, one night, when that man was busy getting ready for his little secret rendezvous, she made a simple switch. Took that little bottle he loved to use for his pleasure and replaced it with something stickier. Let's just say it wasn't lube anymore. It was glue. And oh honey, what a night that was. The next morning, the whole neighborhood was buzzing. Fire trucks outside, flashing lights, sirens blaring, and that man hollering like a banshee. Folks peeked through their blinds, trying not to laugh, but you know how gossip travels. Faster than light. And when I tell you the lesson stuck, it stuck. Now don't get me wrong, Auntie Mae ain't saying you should go around gluing folks together. Lord, that's not the message here. What I am saying is that sometimes life has its own brand of justice, the kind that doesn't need you to lift a finger, just to let the truth do what it does best, reveal. Because when you build your house on deceit, don't be surprised when the foundation starts to crumble. That woman didn't walk away angry. She walked away lighter. She found peace in knowing she didn't have to beg to be loved right anymore, and you could see it on her face. That glow that only comes from a woman who's finally done crying. She started laughing again, real laughter, the kind that comes from deep down where the pain used to sit. You see, revenge isn't always about getting even. Sometimes it's about getting free. It's about standing up and saying, "I won't let this break me." She learned that the sweetest revenge isn't in the fire you throw, it's in the peace you keep. She healed, slowly, quietly, and beautifully, the way sunrise melts away the dark. And if you ever find yourself where she once was, baby, remember this: don't beg for loyalty. Real love doesn't need reminders. Don't fight dirty, fight smart. Let your peace be your power. Forgive not for them, but for you. And when you've forgiven, go ahead and laugh again. Because laughter, my dear, is your soul saying, "I'm still here." Now, every time someone asks her about that old story, she just smiles and says, That was the day I learned what real glue does. And child, the way she tells it, you can hear both the pain and the pride. Because sometimes the glue that mends your heart is the same lesson that teaches others not to break it in the first place. So when life shows you who people are, believe it. Walk in truth, carry your dignity like a crown, and never forget, karma might take her sweet time, but when she arrives, she always shows up shining and strong, with pearls around her neck and justice in her hands. Now, heartbreak will do two things to a woman: break her spirit or build her backbone. And honey, this one chose backbone. She cried her tears until her pillow couldn't hold another drop. She prayed, she shouted at the ceiling, she questioned every decision she'd ever made. But when the tears finally ran out, something shifted deep inside her. That's the thing about pain. Once it burns through you, it leaves behind strength you didn't even know you had. She looked around her house one morning. That same house she'd once filled with laughter, dinners, and late-night talks. And she realized it had gone quiet. Not peaceful quiet, but that heavy silence that follows betrayal. The kind of silence that hums with questions you'll never get answers to. She'd spent weeks hoping he'd change, hoping the truth would push him toward honesty. But it didn't. He just got slicker, smoother, and more careful. That's when she understood that hoping was no longer helping. It was time to stop waiting for him to fix what he broke and start fixing herself. She made her peace in small steps. She stopped checking his phone, stopped explaining her worth to a man who'd already decided to forget it. And one evening, sitting by herself with a cup of tea, she whispered, "If you can't be faithful, you can at least be accountable." That's when the idea came to her. Quiet as a whisper, but clear as day. She didn't want to hurt him, not really. She wanted him to feel the weight of his own choices. Because see, when people play in the dark, they forget that the light reveals everything eventually. So she planned, not with anger, but with precision. You could call it poetic justice, not wild, not cruel, but fair in its own way. It wasn't about getting even, it was about sending a message. She knew that man's habits better than he did. Knew his favorite cologne, his late-night routines, and that little bottle he kept hidden away, thinking she didn't notice. Oh, but she did. And that bottle became her tool, not of revenge, but of revelation. Now, she didn't rush it. She waited until the right night, one of those evenings when he was humming to himself, thinking he was too slick to be caught. And when the time came, she walked to that dresser, her heart beating slow and steady, and she made a small, deliberate swap. That bottle he thought held pleasure now held something a little stronger, something that would make sure his lies finally stuck to him. And baby, when I tell you that next morning was one for the books. Whew! You could hear the commotion halfway down the street. Sirens, screams, and enough confusion to wake up the whole neighborhood. Word spread fast, too. Folks peeking through curtains, whispering on porches, pretending to be shocked when they'd seen the signs all along. You know how people are. They'll act like they didn't see the smoke until they smell the fire. But the woman, she didn't come out her door. She just sat there, sipping her tea, looking out the window with that calm only the truly done can have. Not happy, not gloating, just still. Because she wasn't celebrating his embarrassment. No, she was grieving her old self, the one who'd loved too hard, forgiven too quickly, and waited too long. This wasn't revenge, it was release. It was the final page of a chapter she'd been scared to close. And child, the look on his face when the firemen showed up. Pure panic and disbelief. It wasn't just about the glue, no ma'am. It was about the realization that every lie eventually hardens. That's the funny thing about deceit. It sticks, one layer at a time, until one day you find yourself trapped in your own mess. When all the noise died down and the street was quiet again, she felt lighter, the kind of light you feel when you stop carrying someone else's guilt on your shoulders. She didn't need to say a word. The lesson had been delivered loud and clear. And in that silence, she smiled. Not because she'd gotten even, but because she'd gotten free. Heartbreak had tried to break her, but instead it built her. And from that day on, she moved differently. Her walk had purpose, her laugh came easier, and her peace, oh, her peace, was no longer negotiable. Because once a woman remembers her worth, baby, no kind of glue, no kind of lie, and no kind of man can ever trap her again. Now Auntie Mae ain't saying you should go around gluing folks together. Lord, no. Don't you go getting any ideas now. But what I am saying is this life's glue has a way of finding those who think they can slip through the cracks. See, you can outrun the truth for a while, but one day it catches up, and when it does, it sticks tighter than anything you can buy off a store shelf. That's just how consequences work. They show up uninvited, but right on time. Now that woman, bless her heart, she didn't act out of malice. There wasn't an ounce of hate left in her. By the time she pulled her little plan together, she was past crying, past begging, past trying to make sense of nonsense. No, she acted out of clarity. That kind of quiet, calm knowing that says, I've had enough. Her revenge wasn't about pain. It was about truth. She didn't want to destroy him. She wanted him to see what he'd built, and what he'd built, baby, was a tower made of lies. When word got around about what happened, people talked. Of course they did. You know how folks can be. They whispered, they laughed. Some even shook their heads like they didn't understand. But Auntie Mae did. I knew what that kind of pain can do to a person. It changes the way you breathe, the way you move through the world. It's a heavy thing, betrayal, like trying to carry water in your hands. No matter how tight you hold, it still slips through. So when I say that woman didn't hurt him out of anger, I mean it. She was just reminding him, and maybe reminding herself too, that betrayal always binds tighter than truth ever could. When you lie, you think you're getting away with something, but you're really just tangling yourself in your own mess. Every secret adds another knot, and before you know it, you're stuck. Just like he was. And isn't that how it always goes? You build a home on deceit, it'll collapse in chaos. You build it on honesty, it might shake, but it'll stand. You can't plant lies and expect to harvest peace. You can't water a relationship with half-truths and wonder why it don't grow. That woman learned that lesson the hard way, but she learned it all the same. Now, I'll tell you something funny. Because sometimes life has a sense of humor when it's teaching lessons. A few weeks after that incident, that man went around acting like he was the victim. Talking about how embarrassed he was, how people should mind their business. But baby, when you do your dirt, your business becomes everybody's business. That's just how it is. Karma don't whisper. She shouts. And sometimes, she makes a spectacle out of you just so the next person can think twice before walking that same road. But here's what I love about that woman. She didn't rub it in. She didn't gloat or brag or even tell her side. She just smiled and said, "It's all in God's hands now." You see, that's when you know someone has healed, when they don't need to prove a thing. Her peace spoke louder than any revenge ever could. And the best part, she started living again, laughing again. She stopped waiting for apologies that were never coming and started writing her own happy ending. Now, I want you to hear this part real clear, baby. Consequences aren't always punishments. Sometimes they're lessons dressed up as messes. They remind us to do better, to love better, to be better. That woman could have stayed bitter, but she chose wisdom instead. She didn't let what broke her define her. She let it refine her. And when people asked her if she regretted what she did, she just chuckled and said, "No, honey, some people need a little glue to keep their lessons in place."
That's life, isn't it?
We learn, we stumble, we grow. Sometimes we get hurt by people we never thought would harm us. And sometimes, just sometimes, they get stuck in the very web they spun. But at the end of the day, it ain't about revenge. It's about balance. What goes around don't just come around, it comes around with a receipt. So no, Auntie Mae ain't saying you should go swapping bottles or setting traps. But I am saying, trust that the universe knows how to handle its business. You don't have to chase justice. It has your address. Just sit back, keep your heart clean, and let time do the work. Because in this life, baby, everybody gets glued to their own truth eventually. And when they do, it sticks just right. Now let's talk real for a second, baby. Revenge ain't about payback. It's about power back. It's about looking at the pieces of yourself that somebody tried to break and saying, "No, you don't get to keep any part of me." It's about standing up again, even when your knees are still shaking. That woman, the one who had her heart split open and her spirit bruised, she didn't sit around waiting for an apology that was never coming. She didn't keep asking why. She stopped asking altogether. One morning, she just woke up, wiped the sleep and the sadness from her eyes, and said, "'Nuff." See, she realized something important. You can't rebuild your peace in the same place where it was destroyed. So she stopped chasing after him, stopped checking if he was sorry, stopped trying to understand a man who didn't even understand himself. She got up, got dressed, and decided that her peace was going to be her new perfume. Strong, quiet, and unforgettable. And baby, when I tell you that peace looked good on her, I mean good. You ever seen someone walk so light, it's like the weight just fell off their shoulders overnight? That was her. People around town noticed too. You know how folks talk. Always whispering, trying to piece together what happened. But she didn't care. When they asked her how she was doing, she'd just smile and say, "Better than I was yesterday." She didn't have to explain the details. Her glow said everything. Because healing doesn't always need an announcement. Sometimes it's just the quiet reclaiming of your joy. She started doing little things for herself. Things she hadn't done in years. She painted her nails bright again, the way she used to before she started dimming her light for him. She went back to singing while she cooked, humming those old soul songs that used to fill the house. She redecorated her bedroom, took down all those pictures that held more lies than memories, and hung up mirrors instead, because she wanted to see herself again. Every reflection reminded her that she was still here, still beautiful, still whole. Now don't get me wrong, healing didn't happen overnight. It came in slow waves, some gentle, some rough. There were days when she'd remember his laugh and feel that ache deep in her chest again. But instead of letting it break her, she'd take a deep breath and remind herself, that was a lesson, not a life sentence. And each time she said it, that ache got smaller until one day, it wasn't there anymore. She started spending more time with her friends again. The ones she'd pushed away because she was too busy fixing a man who didn't want to be fixed. They laughed, they danced, they poured her a glass of wine and said, "Girl, you look like you finally exhaled." And she had. For the first time in years, she was breathing for herself. One day, she saw him again. By accident, of course. Life has a funny way of testing you to see if you've really healed. He tried to talk to her, tried to explain, tried to make that same old charm work. But she just smiled, not bitter, not proud, just free. She didn't raise her voice, didn't throw shade. She simply said, "I wish you well," and walked away. That's the kind of peace that makes people wonder what you know that they don't. And baby, She knew this. The sweetest revenge isn't loud. It's not in the getting even, it's in the getting better. It's in walking past the pain without carrying it. It's in realizing that closure isn't something they give you. It's something you give yourself. She found joy again. Not the kind tied to someone else's attention, but the kind that lives deep in your bones. She started smiling from a place of real contentment, and that glow. Oh, it was holy. Because sometimes the sweetest revenge is peace. Not the kind that looks perfect, but the kind that lets you sleep easy at night. The kind that lets you laugh at things that used to make you cry. The kind that whispers, "You made it," every morning when you wake up. She learned that sometimes the glue ain't in the bottle. It's in how you stick to your worth, no matter who tries to peel it away. So when people talk about revenge, Auntie Mae just shakes her head. Baby, real revenge isn't about hurting them. It's about healing you. It's about walking into your future without dragging your past behind you. It's about knowing that forgiveness isn't weakness, it's just refusing to let what broke you decide who you become. And when she finally looked in the mirror and saw herself smiling again, not the forced kind, but the real one, she knew she'd done it. She'd taken her power back. And Lord, didn't it look good on her? Now if you ever find yourself where that woman was, heartbroken, trust shattered, staring at the pieces of something you thought would last forever, I want you to lean in close and hear Auntie Mae's words. Because baby, I've lived long enough to know that pain like that can make you forget who you are if you let it. But you don't have to stay broken. You don't have to let betrayal define the rest of your story. You can rise right up out of that hurt, stronger and wiser than you ever were before. First things first, don't you ever beg for loyalty. Real love don't need reminders, sugar. You shouldn't have to teach somebody how to treat you. Love, the good kind, the kind that lasts through storms and sickness and silence, knows how to show up on its own. If you have to chase it, beg for it, or keep proving you deserve it, that's not love. That's labor. And no woman should have to clock in every day just to be loved right. You deserve the kind of love that doesn't make you question your worth, because it already sees it. And baby, don't fight dirty. Fight smart. You don't have to scream. You don't have to curse. And you surely don't have to lower yourself to match somebody else's foolishness. The best revenge has always been the better version of you. You know what I mean. The you that walks taller, speaks softer, and glows brighter than before. Because when you start living well, truly well, it makes every person who tried to dim your light squint just to see you. Don't waste your energy trying to prove them wrong. Just keep becoming everything they thought you couldn't be. That's the kind of justice that doesn't need a courtroom, just consistency. Now here's something folks don't always understand. Healing doesn't have to be quiet, but forgiveness sure does. Heal loudly. Go ahead and celebrate your growth. Let the world see you rising from what was meant to ruin you. Buy yourself those flowers, take that trip, laugh too loud at the things that once made you cry. That's healing. But forgiveness? Oh baby, keep that one between you and God. You don't have to announce it, just do it for your own peace, not for their comfort. Because forgiveness isn't saying, what you did was okay. It's saying, you don't get to live rent-free in my spirit anymore. And through it all, never, and I mean never, lose your laughter. That's your soul's armor. Life will try to harden you, but don't let it. Laugh when you can, even if it's through tears. Laugh because you made it another day. Laugh because they didn't take your joy, no matter how hard they tried. That laughter is proof that the fire didn't consume you. It refined you. And nothing confuses your enemies more than a woman who can smile after the storm. See, you can rise without revenge. You can laugh without hate. But Lord, sometimes a little poetic justice sure helps the healing stick. Now I'm not telling you to go around plotting and scheming. No, ma'am. But there's something sweet about watching life take care of what you don't have to. Because it always does. The truth has a funny way of walking into the light, no matter how long it's been hiding in the dark. That woman we talked about. She didn't come out of her storm bitter. She came out better. She stopped chasing explanations and started chasing peace. She stopped waiting for closure and realized she could close that door herself, and every step she took away from that man, she was walking toward her own freedom. That's what reclaiming your power looks like. It's not loud, it's not messy. It's steady. So if you ever find yourself standing in those same shoes, shaking, heart aching, not knowing what's next, remember this: you are not weak for hurting. You are not foolish for loving. But you are wise for learning. Every betrayal is a teacher in disguise. It teaches you how to protect your peace, how to guard your joy, and how to love yourself the way you should have been loved all along. And when the dust settles, and you're standing there, still standing, baby, hold your head high. Let your story be a testimony, not a tragedy. Walk through your pain like it's the hallway to your purpose. And when you finally come out on the other side, glowing from grace, smiling from strength, people will ask you, how did you do it? And all you'll need to say is, I stopped fighting for them and started fighting for me. Because in the end, betrayal might break your heart, but it can't break your destiny. It's just one chapter in your story, not the ending. So dry your eyes, fix your crown, and keep walking. Your peace is waiting, your laughter is waiting, your power is waiting. And baby, that's a kind of revenge no one can take from you. So next time life breaks your heart, baby, remember this: you ain't broken. You're just being rebuilt. Sometimes God has to take us apart piece by piece, just so we can see how strong we truly are when we're put back together again. It hurts, yes it does, but healing always hurts a little before it helps, just like setting a bone after it's been broken. Painful at first, but that's the only way it can grow back stronger. Now, when you're sitting in the middle of that heartbreak, it don't feel like rebuilding. It feels like loss. It feels like standing barefoot in the ashes of something you swore would last forever. You'll look around and think, how did I get here? But one day, baby, you'll realize you had to lose what was hurting you to make room for what would heal you. You had to be emptied so you could be filled again. With peace, with laughter, with truth. And sometimes, the glue that mends your soul ain't just the healing. It's the lesson. That's what folks forget. Every heartbreak, every disappointment, every time someone does you wrong, it teaches you something about who you are and what you deserve. That glue, that wisdom, it seeps right into the cracks of your spirit and makes you whole again. Not the same, but better. And the next time someone tries to test you, they'll find out that your heart ain't fragile anymore, it's fortified. I remember a time, not too different from the story we've been talking about, when I thought I'd never laugh again. Oh, I was broken, baby. Thought the world had ended when it was really just starting over for me. But I sat on my porch one evening, watching the sunset melt into the horizon, and I realized, life doesn't stop when people walk away. It only stops when you stop believing there's more waiting for you. That's when I decided to stop mourning what was gone and start thanking God for what was coming. See, we all have a little Auntie Mae in us. That part that's strong enough to smile even with tears in her eyes. The part that knows revenge don't have to be ugly. It can be as simple as peace. It can be as quiet as a smile that says, you didn't break me. Because let me tell you something, baby, Peace is loud to the people who tried to hurt you. Your silence, your joy, your refusal to crumble. That's the real clapback. And life. Oh, life has its own way of handling things. Karma might take her sweet time, but she's never late. She don't rush, she don't stumble. She arrives with her pearls on, head held high, ready to deliver every bit of what's been earned. You don't need to chase her, you don't even need to call her. She's got perfect timing. And when she comes, you just sit back on your porch, sip your tea, and let her do her work. Now, baby, when you finally come out of that storm, because you will, I want you to take a moment to thank yourself. Thank the woman or man who kept standing when everything around them fell apart. Thank the version of you who held on just long enough to see the sun again. That's the person who deserves your love most of all. Don't rush to fill the empty space with noise or people who don't see your worth. Let the quiet heal you. That quiet is where your strength grows. And one day, when you're sitting on your own porch and some younger soul comes to you with tears in their eyes, you'll tell them what I'm telling you now. You'll say, baby, don't let heartbreak harden you. Let it teach you. Let it soften you in the right places and strengthen you in the rest. You'll tell them that life has a way of gluing you back together with gold. The kind of gold that shines through the cracks and shows just how much you've lived, how much you've learned, and how much you've survived. So go on, baby. Keep your peace, hold your power, and don't ever forget who you are. You're not just surviving, you're glowing, growing, and flowing right into your next blessing. Every tear you cried watered the garden of your strength. Every scar you wear tells a story of a battle you didn't lose. You learned from it. And every Auntie Mae knows this much is true. Karma might take her time, but she always shows up, slow, steady, and sparkling, wearing pearls, patience, and poetic justice. So sit tall, smile soft, and trust that everything meant for you will find its way home. Because, baby, the universe always knows how to take care of its own.